2020. This year has been... Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. This year goes without saying, doesn't it? Hey guys, Anna Return here, welcome back to my channel. So this video has two parts to it. Part one, we're gonna review the year, reflect on things I did, the revelations I came to, things that happened to me, whatever this year's meant to me, I guess, I don't really know. We're just gonna discuss this year and just how trash it's been, but trying to focus mainly on like the positives and like the bits of light that we've been able to sort of trap and savor from this year, which has just been very, very, very dark. And part two, we are going to be goal setting for the next year. Well, for first we're going to look back at the goals that I set up for this year and just have a laugh, quite frankly. Then we're gonna take those, develop them, improve them to hopefully set a good mindset for 2021. So yeah, I wanted to make this video as sort of a reflection, a sort of round off of this year to set us up for the new year. I know quite a lot of people are going to be doing these kind of videos, so I decided to jump on the train and hopefully this does well. So without any further ado, let's start with part one, which like I said is going to be like the year review. So let's get into it. So the year started off fairly strong, or at least so I thought. January was obviously one of the 2 months of freedom we got before the pandemic completely took over our lives, and like most people it was filled with nights out and overall joy and excitement for the new year. The only mentions of coronavirus we had at that time were the posters that we were seeing around being like, if you've been to Wuhan or like any like these provinces in China or any, like there was a few other locations as well, like if you've been here, self-isolate for 2 weeks when you get back to the UK, but that was literally like that's all the mentions of coronavirus we had at that point. And obviously at the end of the month is when Brexit Day happened, which, you know, was very much a cause for celebration, finally leaving the EU after 4 years, woohoo. Overall, it was a very enjoyable month. Moving on to February, it was kind of the same thing, pretty chill, pretty enjoyable. I went to a JC Stewart concert. For those of you who watched that vlog, you know what I'm on about. If you haven't, I mean, the editing's a bit dated, but by all means go and watch it, I'll leave it in the cards. My mental health that month was starting to show a few signs that something was like starting to not be quite right, but it wasn't necessarily on my urgent radar at that point. There were things that was trying to come to the surface but hadn't quite yet, so it wasn't really anything I was majorly concerned about. But yeah, overall, again, the second month of freedom we got before the pandemic really started to take a turn, overall was pretty chill. And then we move on to March, where things went very, very wrong. Granted though, like the majority of the month we still had quite a lot of freedom. I went to the People's History Museum in Manchester. For those of you who are into politics, would highly recommend. I started working out because I realised that the weight that I'd gained over that term was really starting to bother me. So I started working out to try and solve that. Granted, very unsuccessfully because my nutrition was terrible. For those of you who know, in order for you to get results, you need to be eating properly, and I just wasn't. However, like I say, towards the end of the month was when things started to heat up quite predominantly. There were rumours of a UK lockdown, the daily press conferences had started, and I made this poster because I was very, very annoyed at the way people were treating the government. This was the stage of the pandemic where everyone went mad for toilet paper. You know, the world has seemed to like run out of toilet paper all of a sudden. What are people doing with it? You know, using it as wallpaper. You don't need 2 trolleys worth of toilet paper, Karen, okay? Put it back, you only need 1. Which was annoying and still shouldn't have happened, but did anyway, and it was just a terrible start to the pandemic. My mental health had started to be on my radar a little bit more predominantly, in that it had gone from being like, okay, to we're in trouble. So that was not fun. And alas, on the 23rd of March, the UK went into lockdown season 1 and I went home for the foreseeable. Although, you know, we all thought it was going to be like about a month or maybe 2 months, or, you know, some people thought, oh, we'll be back in 2 weeks. we were so naive. We didn't know, did we? We really didn't. So moving on to April, I started to do research into depersonalization disorder because I was starting to come to a self-diagnosis, and by the end of that month I had come to said self-diagnosis. I was forced to make the rather painful purchase of this MacBook Pro that I'm using right now. For those of you who watched that vlog, you know the story of how I got that, because it was it was a process, and despite it being a rather painful purchase, as I said, over $1,000 out of my bank account, so far it's been worth every penny, so no regrets. This was also the Tiger King stage of the pandemic. It seems so long ago now. Do you remember that? Times were so much better, weren't they? Yeah, this was before things went really downhill. It was just like, yeah, it sucks, but we have big cats, and nothing else really happened really. I spent most of my days working on uni because that was obviously, even though I'd left Bolton at that point, I was still doing my semester, so I spent most of my days doing work, as I say. So moving on to May. May is when I finished my first year of uni. I started to plan my mental health video because, like I said, the previous month I come to the self-diagnosis and was starting to put the dots together and was like, this is something I could make a video about, share my story, etc, etc, which I did do, and we'll get to that in the months ahead. I was walking around my local area an awful lot. I can't remember whether this was still at the point where we were only allowed one walk a day. I think this is when that had been eased actually, but I was walking around my local area an awful lot, finding little hidden gems in different places that I didn't know existed. I'm sure I'm showing a slideshow of different images that I took in that time, but yeah, I like my local area. She's pretty occasionally. Moving on to June. June was the month where for the first time in months I travelled a distance to go back to Bolton and clear out my first year room. The video I made for the StudyTube project, I think back in like April I started to plan for that, finally came out, and I gained quite a few subscribers from that. It was a nice experience. Hi, if you're from the StudyTube project, by the way, and you subscribed from that video, thanks for subscribing and staying subscribed. I also did the Vogue challenge, which, you know, follow me on Instagram. But yeah, June was a pretty good month, to be fair. It was pretty chilled, pretty enjoyable thing. I was starting to get more settled to being at home, and I was starting to sort of get used to the effects of the pandemic a little bit more and starting to accept that we were going to be in this for a very long time. I think that was the same for a lot of people. So yeah, moving on to July. I published my mental health video, which was a big step for me. If you haven't watched that video, not that I want to let my depersonalization disorder like define me completely, but that video does include quite a bit of like my life story, and as I sort of join the dots of like what caused me to have this disorder. So it's a bit of a context thing. If you haven't watched that video, I'd recommend going and watching it. If you haven't subscribed yet and you're watching this and you're new, hi. If you go to my channel, well, it should be the first video that pops up. Do subscribe and hit the bell, by the way. But yeah, that was a big step for me, and I'm definitely still proud of that video, despite it not doing as well as perhaps I anticipated. But hey, still, it was a milestone, it was an achievement, and like I say, I'm still very proud of that video. So yeah, we started going for meals out again because restaurants and hospitality were able to open up again, so that meant that we were making up for quite a few missed birthdays from earlier in the year. Myself and my parents went on an overnight trip to Shap in Cumbria. Again, it's on my Instagram if you guys want to go check that out. We saw some red squirrels, which were definitely the highlight of that trip. And now moving on to August, we went on more walks, took a lot of Instagram photos. My Instagram feed throughout the summer was just like green spaces, which, you know, not complaining about. Obviously, in the UK we had the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, thanks Richie, which meant more meals out to support hospitality, and I re-enrolled at uni for my second year, which brings us very nicely on to September, because soon it was time for me to return to Greater Manchester, to return to Bolton, and I did that. However, my mental health did not like it. I have to admit, I spent the first couple of weeks incredibly dissociated. It was not a fun time. But October definitely improved that feeling. Although it was a fairly anticlimactic month, it did start off with me partaking in the online Conservative Party conference, which, to be honest, looked a little bit like a computer game from the 90s. It was an interesting experience, but enjoyable nonetheless when it worked. But, you know, it was it was an interesting experience. However, obviously, towards the end of the month was when things start to take a turn again, because on Halloween, which was cancelled, again, check the vlog, on that day we had the announcement of Lockdown Season 2, boys, let's go! Which brings us on to November, which I say, Lockdown Season 2. However, Biden won the election. Well done, America. At least, you know, that was one good thing that came out of 2020, at least for America, was that Joe Biden won the election. Go on, America, you did that. Despite the fact that, to this day, Donald Trump will not shut up on Twitter about the fact that it was all fraud and he won the election and whatever. Like, if you go to his Twitter, almost every single one of his tweets has the little blue alert thing under his tweets being like, this result is disputed, or, you know, the election was called differently. That's kind of all that happened in November. It was kind of a chill month, to be fair. Moving on to December. At the beginning of the month, on the 4th, I had my 20th birthday. Still don't feel like an adult, but hey-o. And I've actually been home since the 7th because the government introduced the, like, test to come home scheme, so I had 2 tests while I was on campus in order for me to come home and enjoy Christmas, which we managed to do fairly normally, to be fair. Not a lot changed. We were still able to enjoy it at my granddad's with my uncle, the way we always do every single year. So yeah, it was, although it didn't feel like Christmas, I do have to admit, definitely didn't feel like Christmas compared to a lot of other years, but it was still nice to spend that like as normally as possible. So yeah, and that brings us to now. So like I said, that was the first part of this video. We survived the year, didn't we? Let's all just pat ourselves on the back for that. A lot's happened. And not a lot at the same time, but, you know, it was, yeah, we survived. That's all we can really say. Moving on to part 2, which, like I say, is the part where I go through my 2020 goals, have a bit of a laugh, and then set new ones for the new year, because, you know, let's hope the new year's better than this year, because we all need that at this point. So yeah, let's go have a laugh at my optimism, shall we? I think we shall. And here we have it, my 2020 goals that I created this time last year. I'm gonna be honest, I've never really been one for like goal setting or making a vision board or that kind of thing. However, like most people, I'm sure, my mindset towards this year was very much like, this is gonna be my year, we're gonna achieve so much, it's gonna be great, woohoo, and definitely didn't turn out like that. Let's just go through them, we'll see which ones we're trying to sort of reach too far, whether I achieved any of them, and find ways in which I can improve them to set up my 2021 goals. So, without any further ado, let's just get into this. Apologies that the webcam has now disappeared, by the way. I did try and film this bit with the webcam, but the webcam kept freezing, and yeah, so hence why I'm doing it like this. So, first section, as you can see, education. So, first thing is get a first in one of my modules and enjoy the work to go with that. Okay, first part of this, no. I did achieve a 2-1 in my first year, and I'm on track for the same with the 2 modules I've got going this semester. I am trying to push for a first in one of them, but so far didn't achieve this one. Enjoy the work, yeah, but I say the second part of this, yeah, I can say I enjoyed the work. It didn't get me there, because obviously I didn't get one, but I definitely enjoyed my first year as much as I could, and I've enjoyed this semester so far, so yeah, kind of like a half and half one there. Moving on, carry out more research that will help me sleep off goal and letting go out. Okay, this one. My mindset going into 2020 was be really academic and just be the best student ever, woohoo, because the more context you know, the better. It was kind of an extreme mindset because essentially I just wanted to have like a massive reset, trying to sort of kickstart some things. I didn't really understand the problem with my mindset and my mental health like then, so a lot of this is just based on the mindset that I had back then, which has definitely changed now. So I will say that I will probably tailor this one a little bit more to sort of research the advertising industry, in that, you know, research your career and like the path you want to go there, because that's a little bit more appropriate for where I am now. So I wouldn't necessarily say this resonates very strongly with me now. I understand where I was coming from at the time, but I've changed. So moving on. This one, however, is definitely more relevant. Stick closer to the hours of work. I need to focus more on my uni work. It needs to be a thing, because that's what I'm paying for. I just again, this was the reason that this wasn't achieved was mostly due to my mental health and the decline there, and it was kind of the same here. Like, I've been struggling a lot with motivation and that kind of thing, and yeah, so we're definitely going to work on this. As I say, I'm going to tailor this one a little bit more to where I am at the moment and work harder to achieve this one. This one's staying in, this one's changing. Moving on. So, career / YouTube. This one, really, I don't know why I put career in here, because this is mainly just YouTube, but we'll see. I'm going to change some things up in my next goals list for next year, as you'll see in a bit. So, be more consistent with my improved editing style and increase my uploads. Okay, yes, I feel like I did this. I didn't do this, but I did do this. Thanks to actually getting my MacBook Pro and starting to use Final Cut Pro, and I feel like I achieved this. I will say that I don't think I would have been as proud of my mental health video as I am if I didn't have that software, so have to hand it to myself. Definitely achieved this one. Hopefully this will improve with the coming year, especially because, spoilers, I just bought a new camera that's a little bit like the Canon G7X, but it's not. It's a cheaper version, and hopefully that means that my content will improve in quality. So, moving on, grow my audience to be more engaged. I want to do this, definitely I want to try and do this more, which is going to come with this, not gonna lie. Seek more opportunities to audition for YouTube if you're actually recruited. This is the only bit that I actually talked about, like, career in inverted commas. Again, I don't really know why this was here, because this is just about my YouTube channel. Seek more opportunities. Yeah, this is the first one where it's like, yeah, 2020, because I can't really do that. Don't really know what I meant. I guess try and sort of meet people to collab with, I suppose. I'm not too sure. But again, that was kind of curbed because 2020. Yeah, hopefully more things will happen in terms of my YouTube channel over this next year, hopefully. Moving on to politics, yes. Beginning of this year, I definitely wanted to be more informed, you know. Over 2019, I really got into politics a lot more, got a lot more informed and formed my own opinions from that, you know. But there was a lot of stuff I didn't know, a lot of gaps in my knowledge, and, you know, there still is to this day, actually, and we'll get into that. So, the first one here is be more engaged about what's going on beyond media headlines. Yes, because the mainstream media does not tell the full story. It's incredibly biased most of the time. Constantly check Parliament Twitter accounts. Research anything I don't understand. Now this I definitely did. I think, to be honest, I did all of this goal, all the parts of it. I just have been more engaged in current affairs. I mean, you can't not have been really throughout this pandemic, to be fair. We've just had a lot of government stuff going on, and it's been a crazy year in terms of politics, let's be honest, in the UK and in the US as well. As I said, you know, go Joe Biden, but I think I've achieved this, not gonna lie to you. However, I think the research part needs to be more tailored towards past events and what past leaders did and how that affects current affairs, because that is still the one gap in my knowledge where I fall behind quite a lot in debates and doesn't do well for my skills. So that's how we're gonna translate it into the goals for this next year. Attend at least one conservative politics event. And be fully present and engaged. Yes, because I was starting to recognise this weird thing where I couldn't concentrate. I didn't realise what it was, and then this year we realised that was depersonalisation disorder, but that was why that was there, because I didn't understand. But now I do. I did actually achieve this goal. to be fair, and all of it, I'm pretty sure. I mean, as I said, online conference wasn't exactly the most efficient thing in the world, but it still was, you know, enjoyable and meant that I ticked this off. To be fair, when I did write this, I did have conference in mind. Of course, it didn't pan out exactly how I envisioned it when I wrote this goal down, but at the same time, it was, yeah, I still achieved it. So tick. I mean, we're not ticking these off, but if we were, I'd definitely tick that off. Right, and finally, be part of the question time program. Didn't do this for obvious reasons, and of course, you know, they just didn't come to Bolton or my local area. So, yeah, I don't know if this is a goal that I'm going to achieve next year either. I'm not too sure. I'm probably going to put it on my next goals anyway, just to see, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. This is interesting, isn't it? Right, moving on to personal. Now, there are a few things here that I am going to blur out just because I don't want them to be on the internet. Choose affirmations to resonate. Okay, I am not a fan of affirmations. I'm really not. I have to say, I tried them. I just cringe internally every single time I try, so I might try again, but I'm really not a fan of affirmations. They make me want to jump off a cliff. So, however, this next bit, I will improve my mentality towards myself, self-confidence. Yes, we need to do this. This is like the most recent thing that I've come to the conclusion about it. I need to sort out my self-esteem because it's shocking. And that's really what's affecting me now. So this will, some form of this kind of a thing will definitely be on my next goals list, just because I need to sort that out. Think more about what you're wearing instead of sticking to the same outfits you've worn for the past 2 years. 2 or more years. Definitely did this, I feel like. I've been a bit more experimental and will continue to do so throughout the next few years. And the final one I'm going to touch on is practice piano more. Yes, in order to not lose the skill. I need to do this more. I definitely did not achieve this one as much as I wanted to. This one, I'm quite embarrassed to say that I hardly touched my piano this year. I really, yeah, this needs to change. My parents paid too much money for me to learn. So yeah, those were my 2020 goals. Not too far off the mark, to be fair. I mean, I feel like a lot of other people have goals that stretch far wider than mine did. Mine's kind of stayed very close to home. Taking these into consideration, let's move into Notion for my 2021 goals. Okay, so originally I did just have like a really long talking clip like I did for my 2020 goals. However, I just thought, especially since I added a few more goals to this list after I'd filmed that original clip, I just decided to let you guys have a read of what I put down for my 2021 goals, because this video was already getting way too long, and I just thought it would be easier for me to just let you guys read it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more of my videos. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram and Snapchat, names for which will be, as always, at the end of this video. And yeah, Happy New Year. Let's hope that this year is much better than 2020, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cue the really hype outro.